Hello, I would like to just share a little bit about grading in 5th grade language arts in my class. We do something a little bit different called mastery grading, and instead of you seeing grades in the grade book, that will be one paper that the students have done at one point on one day. You will see these objectives written in the grade book. So these are the things for the first 9 weeks that the students are going to be trying to master. Reading aloud with fluency, reading for 30 minutes at a time, creating summaries, explaining foreshadowing and how that helps them understand a story, characters and the relationships in the characters, points of view, third person point of view in fiction, using context to determine unfamiliar words and context clues, and then inferencing about text. And this first 9 weeks we're talking about fiction only, so this is in fiction texts. At the top of the rubric that you'll see that the students will be bringing home, this is our Marzano's scale of mastery. So the grades underneath represent what they understand for that skill. So a 50 represents they're not using the skill at all in their independent reading time. A 70 means, yeah, I'm still practicing but I'm making quite a few mistakes. 80 and maybe need teacher's help. 85 is an independent work. I'm making a couple of errors but I don't need help and I'm doing pretty well on my own. And then the 95 is I'm using an independent work, I've got no mistakes. And then you might see 100, that means they're doing all of this in above level text. So they're doing well, plus they're reading above level for their grade level. So at the beginning of the 9 weeks, we may be having some students who can't read for 30 minutes at a time. So we're not using this skill currently in independent work. You might see a 50 in the grade book. So for the first 9 weeks, we're going to be talking about being able to read for a sustained period of time and show what you have understood and learned from your reading in that time. So some students will start here. Yep, I can do that. I'm having no trouble. So they won't need to practice it. Some students will start here. So in the grade book, you might see a 50 or a 70. And then after a few weeks, that 70 might turn into an 85. So the 70 disappears and the 85 turns up in the grade book, and then the 85 disappears and 95 turns up in the grade book. Same here, I can create a summary and paraphrase, maintaining meaning in logical order. I'm going to be asking them this in their IRLs. Sometimes it's oral, sometimes it's discussion, sometimes I'm having them write it as a reader's response, sometimes it's on Google Classroom. So there's lots of different variations of how they show me they understand this. And when we start off during, in the classroom, I would say, okay, this week we're going to be talking about summary and paraphrasing. I'll explain what this TEK means, and then they take a pencil and they're going to say where they think they are. Do you think that you're able to do that in independent work? Do you think you're still practicing with many mistakes? Are you doing a pretty good job, or are you making no mistakes? And then once we've done it a little bit, I will have a conference with them and explain where they are in the rubric and what they're working on. What happens is over 2 or 3 weeks of working like this in class, they start to understand the things that they're doing well in and the things that they need help with. So they might be reading out loud with fluency, they can read for 30 minutes at a time, they're doing a pretty good job at summary and paraphrasing, but when it comes to explaining foreshadowing the stories, they're not getting that part, they might be down here. So you might see in the grade book a 95, an 85, a 95, and then there's a 50. The 50 is a place marker so that you know that they can't do this, they know they can't do it, I know they can't do it, and we know that that is the skill that we are working on in class. As the 9 weeks progress, you will see these skills grades increase to show mastery. At the end of the 9 weeks, we want to be sitting in these 2 columns right here. If we're still seeing some things around here, it might just be taking them more than 9 weeks to sort that out. I still have that recorded, and as we go through the year and they go through the year, they know they're still trying to work on this. So in the grade book, these grades will be for each one of these TEKs, all of the TEKs are put together and an average is taken. So even if we have something that's a little bit on the lower end because they're not mastering it yet, that doesn't really, it's not going to really bring down their entire grade for that subject. So this is the reading. I will have some daily grades apart from this too, but this is the main thing you'll see for the mastery grades. And then in writing, it looks like this. It's a very similar document. It's a little bit smaller to go in the writer's notebook. Same exact rubric at the top right here. And then down here, this is the ones we're going to be working on for the first 9 weeks. This is just for editing and revising. For writing, there'll be a slightly different rubric for writing, and that will go home too in the writer's notebooks. So in the first 9 weeks we're going to be talking about writing legibly in print or cursive, capitalisation specifically of organisations, abbreviations, initials and acronyms, punctuation specifically commas in a compound sentence and quotations where we need spacing and we need punctuation, complete subject and predicate in compound sentences and complex sentences, correct verb agreement, subject verb agreement, and the verb tense in your sentences, and then prepositional phrases. We're going to be working on them also. So again, same thing, I'll explain what we're doing at the beginning of the class. They would look at the rubric, they mark where they are in pencil, and then as they're working on it I go back and I mark in pen. So you might see the pen start here, a couple of weeks later it comes to here, then it might end up here, and then whatever the last grade is for that 9-week working period, that's the grade that they finish the 9 weeks with. Okay, so it's a little bit different. I really like it because I want the grades to represent what they know. Grades tells us what they have mastered, and in the state of Texas it tells us the grade book should show what the students have mastered. So this way everybody knows what has been mastered and what we're still working on, and then the students start taking responsibility of that themselves. So if you have any questions about this, please email me. Social studies are just daily grades, but reading and editing and revising grades will look just like this. I look forward to working with your student this year.